Hello, welcome back to theCUBE here. I'm John Furrier, your host of theCUBE in the Palo Alto studios. We're here all week filming for the CMO Leaders Summit, as well as partnering with the NYSE Wired community. We got a special CUBE conversation here, breaking in for some breaking news. We got Mark Heaps, who's the Vice President of Brand and the Chief Technology Evangelist at Groq, an amazing company we've been following from the beginning. Again, great lead engineering team there, founders coming from the Google, inventing a new category, but really kind of now hitting escape velocity with their success. Mark, great to have you on theCUBE here. Thanks for coming in remote. Appreciate you. And again, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always a good time talking to you guys, and obviously lots of exciting things happening. So it's a good time, and you're talking to my people with this CMO event, so even better.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun because what's really happening, and again, we love talking about it's our religion. We love digital, we love real time, we love AI, we love data. But now we're starting to see mainstream adoption for, clearly in this vertical, CMOs low-hanging fruit in terms of use cases, beyond just writing blogs and doing copy strategy. We're talking about really making humans more creative. So I want to get to that in this interview, but I also want to get into the news. You guys have $1.5 billion in new fresh capital in a deal you guys have done. Break that down for us. Give us a take on the news. What is the hard news? And we'll get into what it means.
Yeah, I think so. Since we spoke last time, we were in the middle of our first project in Saudi Arabia, where we were helping stand up a very large cluster. We actually think it's the largest AI inference cluster in EMEA. And so we were working on that over the holidays. We shipped over several hundred racks via 747s and got those shipped out of the US, both out of LA and Houston, with our very accelerated export licenses from the US government. So we were very appreciative of that. And those systems actually came online at the beginning of this month. And so we've been providing tokens to that part of the world and many of the developer community with those racks. But what was really exciting was on Sunday, as we've been working with Aramco Digital and others, they made the announcement that there's a commitment of $1.5 billion to further expand that data center project and bring more compute into the region to serve the new AI economy. And they decided to build those systems with Groq LPUs. So this is going to be a long-standing project for us with ARR, and everybody's just ready to get to work and looking at the task ahead.
Sometimes, you celebrate the victories, and this is a real great victory for the company. So congratulations on the news.
Thank you.
I mean, there's also some other kind of derivative benefits. One, it's a region, right? I love the word region because, you see these clouds, they have regions. And also your inference engine, LPUs and the systems you built. Again, the founding, in my opinion, the first ever people talking about inference as the killer app, I think was on theCUBE at Supercomputing a couple of years ago. This is monumental. Explain the regional approach, because I think on our last conversation, this is dedicated to the region. So there's like language involved. Take us through some of the specifics that led to the funding, which then is going to get piled back into expanding the region, which will, I won't say gentrify, because it's already a booming region, but digitally change the landscape.
Yeah, I think the big thing here to recognize is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has this very grand vision that they call Vision 2030. And this is everything across the board, from real estate to industry. And the area that we play a part in is their vision for a new digital AI economy. Diversifying the economy that they're involved in, which is more than just fuel energy, but actually being the central hub leading AI in the region of EMEA and parts of South Asia. And so by building these data centers, by bringing in this level of compute, you realize their position geographically is ideal for serving Africa, Europe, all the way across into India and South Asia. Historically, when you saw someone providing any kind of cloud or compute service, you were really concerned about network latency. What do you lose with your packets over distance? This geo position for us in partnership with them allows us to serve an estimated 3 to 4 billion people. And there's obviously massive economies of scale in India and coming across into the Middle East. So this is exciting because their vision and willingness to try a novel technology like Groq just means they're going to provide something very, very special and unique to their customers. So it's a really good time.
Yeah, and I think that's a historic, also notable architectural, global kind of, I call global backbone. I don't know what to call it, but it is a global constellation of value, right? So
Yeah,
I think worth noting that. Thanks for unpacking that. Let's get into the LPU, the flagship
sure.
offering of Groq. Take us through some of the updates. You get the compiler, you get the rack, talk about how Groq is implementing this, because this is, again, another milestone in terms of the industry of how the deployments look. Take us through the deployment inside the region.
Hmm.
It's not just one product, it's a bunch of
No.
LPUs. Explain the architecture. I think this is really notable and also educational.
Yeah, I think the key difference that most people might not know about is if you think about, AI and cloud compute in general for the last several decades, that's been powered by GPUs. And GPUs were the accelerator to the CPU, so they advanced that world of compute. The LPU took advantage of where the GPU kind of hit certain ceilings in regards to ultra low latency and real time compute. And so, unlike a GPU being a multi core processor, the LPU was a single core processor. And it's really designed and was originally engineered to be a part of a large distributed system. The goal eventually creating this global fabric of compute for AI inference. So, where we can start building these systems out into the thousands of LPUs without any loss in latency, that is ideal for what we're seeing with these applications with AI. And even when we started having the virality moment going back a year and a half ago, we've already seen so much of the landscape of AI application development change. It started where people were excited about GPTs and basic chat models. Today, you're seeing everyone talk about agentic, where you have hundreds and in some cases thousands of agents that have different personas and models as their foundation to work together in the background and then give you results that serve your business best. Well, whenever you introduce those extra layers of complexity in your application, what you're really doing is introducing latency. You're slowing down the effectiveness of the application that you've built. So, with this headroom that we have on compute for AI inference, we're seeing customers flock to us because they're building these more complex applications and not sacrificing the end user experience for their services and their applications. And the exciting part about this is it's our first generation processor. The team started designing this 8 years ago when they founded the company, and with Jonathan Ross, our CEO. This is still a 10-year-old fabrication 14 nanometer silicon. So we're not even anywhere near the top of the line methodologies for making these chips. And yet we're leading the pack in most areas on this new AI inference benchmark. So we actually did just get back our V2 LPUs, and the team are testing those in the labs. Very, very exciting results that we're seeing so far. So we're hoping to have some announcements about that later on this year. But the future looks bright with this deployment, this commitment, and new chips coming.
Yeah, it should be a lot more, probably more performance, lower cost, and better power with the new fabrication techniques. And again, good point out there. Let me ask you about the configurations, because there's a lot of hubbub and a lot of banter around, well, I got to have this interconnect and I got to have this here. Recs are hard because there's limited power envelopes, but if you
Sure.
put things in the right configurations, so there's a lot of kind of engineering around, how you roll these things out. And you guys ship a big product, right? So when I see the when I saw Jonathan's LinkedIn posts and Twitter posts, these are big things. These are going out the door. They're powering a lot. What's the best practice? What's the state of the art in terms of how you guys look at maximizing racks, interconnect, networking? Because I think, and again, you get the compiler piece. Talk about specifically how you guys do that, because I think that's an innovation in and of itself.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of marketing on, some of the other innovation at Groq, but for anyone that, goes a little bit deeper and reads some of the white papers about us, it wasn't just that the LPU was novel in its approach to compute, but actually we have multiple patents on things like chip-to-chip connections, how we network. We're actually discovering some new methodologies about how we wire these racks up to be more optimal for input and output tokens of a model. Things that we've looked at, how do you space apart the racks and what does that do for latency? So everywhere we look, we're looking at making sure we're super efficient in that real-time performance. And then what does it do to power? Because we also invented a deterministic chip between the compiler and the actual silicon design itself, our racks don't need to have these switches and routers that you traditionally would have in a cluster to manage the data flow. In essence, when you put these chips together with the network fabric that we have, it might look at 1,024 LPUs and see it as if it's one LPU. So the developer that gets a little deeper in the stack can really do some interesting things for divvying up that compute and processing so that it's optimal for their workloads. So, there's really just been a ton of innovation across the board. And I think what's key for us and what's really going to make a difference moving forward for Groq is, proving to the world that we are a generational technology. And so I think the next LPU is going to be, pivotal in proving that. And it's built on the same compiler. So we're going to have a foundation that we always build upon.
I'm totally looking forward to seeing the early version of that and then the results too. Mark, I got to ask you, brought up developers. I'm glad you brought that up. You mentioned before, obviously, region in Saudi Arabia. Talk about the global impact and growth opportunity around both languages. Again, LPU, language processing unit. Love the word L. Language is part of it.
Yep.
It's not English, right? And so you have areas around the world that aren't English. So there's still a lot of training opportunities out there to infer from. Go to school, then you infer, right? Then that's how it works. You get the, and then you mentioned the developer. Programmability is becoming a huge topic. We're seeing the open source communities already going crazy for more action, faster, smaller, cheaper models are coming out.
Yep.
Language is a growth opportunity, and the impact of developers, programmability on the systems.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that usually confuses a lot of people when they hear that we have a language processing unit is they assume that means chat. The core of language is could be anything from words and phrases to music is a language, art is a language. And you see this across all categories of Gen AI and beyond, right? What it's capable of producing with video, imagery, design, now 3D models. I saw Adobe dropped their video model today, in fact, and that's going to be amazing for marketers. And then you get into how language becomes intelligence as an operating system. You see people talking about operators. All of this comes together at its core as language. And so we're optimal at running that language. The opportunity in the market, though, is really for 20 years, we've seen most of the investment in trying to prove what machine learning was capable of when they trained the models, what people were doing with natural language processing, GPT chat type of models. But it was mostly done in English. And then you saw a different side of language, in the last 6 months where people were taking LLMs to write code. So suddenly you've got the ability to have something that's writing code for you, like Cursor or Windsurf or a number of these other applications. We actually built our own micro app builder called AppGen. And AppGen is super fun. You literally talk to it and it builds a micro app for you in front of you. What's changing now is how do you serve all of this innovation into the global economy? Well, now you need to have that same capability of writing in a language, speaking in a language, and having it generate the things you want with the accuracy and quality we now have come to understand. So actually, when we had the announcement at the Leap 2025 event in Saudi Arabia, Jonathan did a demo on stage where he showed an LLM built by the technology center there. The model is called Alam, and we actually have that available in the region. We partnered with them on that. And it was trained with Arabic in mind. So he actually asks it a prompt. It generates in English. He says, hey, tell me that in Arabic. And then we put that into a leading text-to-speech model made by Play AI, and it actually spoke the Arabic back. And Play AI actually have been training models on that voice. And it was such a fun moment. I got to tell you, John, we were meeting with our stakeholders there, and the first thing they said when they heard the voice was, "This is very, very good Saudi Arabia accent. This is close to my neighborhood." Yeah. To hear someone have that visceral connection to like where they grew up tells you what it's capable of doing. Yeah. So take the economy you've seen and imagine multiplying it across all of these languages, all of these regions. It seems to round to infinity.
Yeah, it's a great, great global opportunity. And I love the demo gods were in your favor there. Again, the AI demo gods. It's not a demo, it's actually real. So it's funny. It's like we see the word demo as the future's coming. You're actually doing a real-time use case.
We probably should say prototype. That's a good point.
Talk about the developer side, because there's programmability on the system side that you guys enable. Again, that was a great example. But now you saw the DeepSeek style kind of innovation, which wasn't really a breakthrough, just shows you that you could be innovative around constraints. That's actually showing the open source developer community like, wait a minute, we can get down to business too. So we're seeing the intersection coming. What's your thoughts on that? Because that's going to be another more gravity around the momentum.
Yeah, this is core to our mission, right? We've always said that the mission statement of the company is driving the cost of compute to zero. And one of the things Jonathan always committed to was providing free access to AI models and compute so that anyone who has a vision and has an idea could actually start prototyping and building something. I think that has been so well received by the developer community. Actually, I looked before jumping on this call with you. We're actually at 925,000 registered developers today, as of literally 20 minutes ago. And at the start of 2024, we were at like 6.
Yeah.
And so it's been unbelievable growth, and it's because they're inspired. And I think this is the key point about the developers. It's like giving artists in the Renaissance period more brushes and more paints with more colors. The first thing they start doing is asking themselves, what can I do with that?
Yeah.
So the open source community, what that's doing for developers in parallel with companies like Groq is saying, hey, we can provide you these open source models that are all uniquely good at different things. You can then think about how to create agents and operators and similar while you also have this exceptional performance. That really is your mixture of brushes and paints to the artist that is the developer. And every week, we're literally taking part in hackathons and seeing these brilliant minds solve problems in the world with these prototypes. And they do it in fractions of the time that it used to take to solve these problems. And so, most hackathons, 24 to 48 hours, and they're coming up with 30 to 100 applications in those environments. It's unbelievable the rate that they can develop at.
Mark, that's a great example of disruptive enablement. Love what you guys are doing. Again, hitting almost 1 million developers, huge accomplishment. Now that's going to force change into the CMO organizations because they're going to now have capabilities. And we're seeing the conversation here at our event. Is our third day. The theme is obviously doing more with less on every department, whether you're a startup or whatever. But now they're going to be able to do things and have breakthroughs that they couldn't have done before, either because 1, it's too big of a transformation project, 2, budget, 3, skill set, 4, they didn't really care or wanted to go through the grind. And then sometimes it just takes too long. So now there's things you're starting to see where it was ungettable before. I mean, I'll give you an example. Enterprise search, what a slog that would have been. By the time you get it done, the world's changed and still it's not right. Glean's doing RAG. RAG is a great solution. So you're starting to see early indicators that there are some sacred cows that you could slay that were hard to get in these areas. Give your thoughts on this because the game is still the same. I want to reach the customer, understand who they are, meet them where they are, move a value proposition in front of them. If they like it, they pay me money. I deliver the service, I keep them. I mean, that's a simple concept, but it ain't easy. But people get caught up in the mechanisms of their MarTech stacks and they get in the weeds.
Yeah, I think, the one thing that we're seeing a huge opportunity in, when people started introducing Gen AI around marketing and for CMOs, the first conversation was, oh, we can write emails faster, we can write outbounds faster, we can actually write scripts faster, we can generate images now for our content, and that was the early stage of it, and we were trying to just get to a quality of what could be produced. What we've now realized, thanks to these advancements around conversational AI, voice AI, and more, and these operators and agents in an agentic workflow, you're no longer going to have this barrier to being able to address all of your customers. So I was actually talking to a company the other day, and they, for years have paid for these massive sales call centers where they've got, their script written by the marketing team. Your CMOs come up with a strategy for outbound. You've got your pipeline list of who you're calling. And then you hope those customers are going to start calling back. And I asked the company, what's your biggest issue there? And they said, well, you have to have enough operators to be able to take those calls back. It's sort of a one-to-one pipeline, right? But what they're realizing now is they can have these AI assistants that have realistic human voices that can answer the call, start asking a few questions to the customer that's called in, and then actually reroute them to a human in the loop for a higher level of service. And now what's interesting is while the human is talking to the customer, you can have another AI system that's listening to the conversation to make suggestions while you're actually serving that customer. Should you offer them a discount? Is there a certain type of upgrade in service that you want them to have, et cetera, et cetera? So now you've got this ability to just never have a customer waiting and start the engagement immediately. And every great CMO knows the more time you've got before you can respond to the customer, the more likely you are to lose the customer. And so real time in AI is enabling that ability to meet the customer immediately, always. That's just one of thousands of case studies out there. And so I think, CMOs now are really taking notice of what does real time mean for us in our operations.
Yeah, I mean, I love the real-time angle because like marketing's always been kind of the rear view mirror, dashboard, data-driven. Well, you
That's
don't have
right.
to be, you can be data native, right? I mean, they have data.
Right.
So, dashboards, okay, what's the next quarter look like for sales? What was the previous quarter?
Hmm.
Real time is different, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I know you are an expert at digital. You've seen the movies before and after, and now
Yeah.
during AI, and you have great vision for the future. Most CMOs that I talk to, very few, don't yet understand how to deploy, say, brand or content, and then once they have impact, okay, they get success. They don't know how to roll it up. They're used to the mechanism of send them an email, do a
Yeah,
roundtable.
sure.
So there's a whole new digital culture around using inference, okay? Like a prompt. Once you get a
Yeah.
prompt, you get a better prompt. So a lot of people are having digital success because they've been efficient with real time, but
Hmm.
they almost get scared. Like, what do I do? I've never seen this kind of success because you hit a watering hole of your target audience, and guess what? You got everybody.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do with that? So there's a whole nother set of potential. What's your
Yeah.
vision
And
on this?
yeah, I think, the other part about real time when you think about the data that's coming in is it used to be exactly as you described, an aggregate of the data, a review policy, you make a decision, you build a strategy and a plan, you roll it out and you launch it. Well, here's the thing. Now, the most powerful thing I think for CMOs is their ability to collaborate, right? I've worked with countless CMOs and creative leaders. And the thing is collaboration and iteration is the key to them getting to that strategy and that decision made.
Mhm.
But that often is a very involved process. I mean, everybody that's, worked in the tech industry just knows the complication of getting a meeting scheduled and your calendaring. So the fact that you can now have these really intelligent, especially with the reasoning models that we're seeing come from DeepSeek and others,
Mhm.
these methodologies means a CMO can say, here's my scenario. This data is streaming in from here. What are the top 3 things we could do to accomplish this goal? And let it just spit ideas at you. And then now you can take those ideas
Mhm.
and say, now how would I execute that? And let it give you ideas about that. And then you could say, oh, I need an application that's a landing site that does this. Can you make that for me real quick? And it'll prototype and build that page for you. So we're just seeing the rate at which a CMO actually turns kind of into a director. And I don't mean a director on the hierarchical level of titling. I mean director as in like the movie director.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
directing the story they want their business to operate within.
Yeah.
And that's really the soul of ideation and iteration with AI. You're a great storyteller. Describe what you want, describe the scene, describe the outcome.
Yeah.
What is the goal? What are the challenges you have on the path? And let it talk about all that with you
Yeah.
and let it operate amongst its own sequence of agents to get the best reasoned logic.
Yeah.
And suddenly there's a lot more valuable return. Now, that's in an individual's instance. But then when you say, now, how do I deploy this at scale? You provide that to your entire workforce.
Yeah.
You build systems with those applications.
Yeah.
You have real time data streaming in and giving you insights in real time.
Yeah.
It's really just a new world of creativity and collaboration and interaction.
Yeah, Mark, I love that director example. Of course, you have the background in there. You get it, and you also work at Groq. They speak innovation there, so you probably have an easy
Absolutely.
time selling ideas through. But directors know that it's not always the first take either, right?
That's right.
I mean, take two. I mean, sometimes you got to get a couple takes to get the shot
Yeah.
you want. Same with community and digital. You
Mhm.
have the opportunity to experiment as long as you have the right approach.
Mhm.
And so, if you could take your Grok hat on, again, they speak innovation, so it's probably easier internally to do
Sure.
what you do, but go into a mainstream company and you want to affect change.
Mhm.
Knowing what you know, how would you go, what would you want to see happen? Knowing what's possible with AI and what's coming, how would you envision you popping into, say, another company? What's your magic wand look like? How would you affect the change? How would you bring people along? Take us through what you would do. Again, if you went into a big company, I'm sure you got the same challenges across, but again, it's probably less hard to sell something innovative there.
Yeah, I think, if you take the idea of agile rapid prototyping and bring it into the conversation for a marketing organization, right? Every, senior marketer I've ever met has their playbook. They know what works. They put their inputs in, they go from there. But if you're using the playbook that you've used at the last 4 companies you've worked at, then you've got 4 other competitors that know your playbook, right? You have to be able to go in and say, let's look at the scenario and how does that change? The way that you can enact that change, though, is really start taking advantage of how much more affordable AI has become. You know, Andrew Ng, I think, gave a talk 6 months ago saying that the price of tokens has come down by nearly 1,000x. Groq gives away billions of tokens a day away for free when you're not using, a large volume of inputs and outputs. If you just need to ideate, I think people need to get very comfortable with being uncomfortable. They have to experiment. They have to iterate. So the magic wand here is saying it's all accessible. I mean, there's so many resources to get access to AI, Groq obviously being one of them. And you can start trying your ideas out in there. What I find more often is the culture for many marketers, ironically being a creative role for many people, is resistance to change. I know my playbook. This is my Bible. I want to hold on to it. I know the gospel here. I know what works. AI opens all of that up. So I think what they need to do from there is really start going in and trying things out. And this is why rapid prototyping is such a good idea. You know, the developer community, when you tap into them, if you have an idea and once upon a time you felt like it's a good idea, but I don't know where to start, ask the intelligence of the systems.
Yep.
It will tell you where to start. And then see if you can prototype something with a developer and build it. It's just, you're not really bound by access anymore.
Yeah.
And I think people need to be comfortable with that, which is why we've always focused on making it real. We go into the meeting with them. I meet the marketers and I say, hey, have you ever thought about this? And they lose their mind. I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know it could be this fast. I didn't know it could be this real. I didn't know it could be this convincing or this intelligent in the way it collaborates with me. Suddenly, I see them turning into the artist. Wait a minute, I want to play with this. Yeah. That's the magic wand, is opening them up play in their role.
Yeah, and like you said, the breakthroughs are there, and we get caught in the day-to-day grind. But you can have a couple big breakthroughs per year.
Completely.
Every company, if you just kind of look at it differently, you got the new paintbrushes, you got the new colors, you can direct the new film, you can drive the new car, orchestrate, be a conductor with more seats in the orchestra. There's a ton of metaphors that play to this, and I want to get your thoughts on this because, I know community is really near and dear to your heart. You're really strong and you understand how community works. You're starting to see community very important in these organic environments as they start overlaying on top of, I call the public streets. LinkedIn, Reddit, all these places are great. They're public forums, but they're like the roads, right? And we have our little identity, LinkedIn profile. You're starting to see new networks form. So community is becoming a big part of the playbook. Yeah. It's not a department anymore and an initiative. It's actually becoming a native lead gen. This is how it came out this week. Lead generation is a thing. It's a category. It's not just email marketing. Email marketing was old school. So people lean on that. Performance marketing is not Google search results. It could be token results, token optimization. I mean, that probably will be a category. So you're starting to see those categorical mechanisms and processes get shifted and replaced. So community comes up a lot as a potential lead gen, but you're not doing the old school lead gen because it behaves differently. Your thoughts on how AI could help companies integrate true community? It could be a company looking to take their 5 CISOs, if they're a cyber company, that they have on their, quote, roundtable board and turn that into 500.
Yeah.
Right. How do you see AI helping companies go to that level? I know it's a little bit out there, but you get it. Share your thoughts.
Yeah, well, going back to your earliest point about this, though, I think what we're seeing for marketers and companies is they've had departments in the past that focus on community. How do they do outreach? But I think you're seeing now that community has to be woven at the highest levels of the culture of an institution. Are you willing to be transparent? Are you willing to interact with the communities that are built around your technologies and around your services? You start having this blurred line between, are you a lifestyle brand if you're serving a community, even though you might just make a small widget that you sell, like a medical provider. Community is really becoming the epicenter of marketing when you're integrating with technology. Where this becomes really interesting, I'll just give one example of a tool that we're working on with a customer, where there are so many comments about Groq now, right? And we're still a company of only a few hundred people. Imagine if you worked at a Coca-Cola or you worked at a Nike. AI now has this ability not to go to your forum or your Discord, but to monitor all social channels and pull a scrape from that, and then using some form of summarization to give you as a marketing leader themes that you're seeing. Well, what happens if you see a theme related to you and other subjects in that area? Would that inform the email that you send out immediately? Would it inform the image that you get generated for your ads? If you're using Google Display Ads and people are talking about, some new shoe or some new product, and you want to relate that to your product, do you have a Gen AI make that image for your ad dynamically go into Google Display Ads, and then that goes out in your targeted regions? What if the scrape of your communities shows you where the conversation is most dense and abundant? Do you have this automatic shift that ads push to that region in that moment? This is really the vision of meeting people where they stand when they care most about you. The old school thinking of this is why ads in the Super Bowl were so expensive, because everybody's watching it and everybody's talking at that moment. Now, unbound that through AI and watch the world of your communities and get the insights in real time. And then you don't need to make it. You say, hey, AI, make an image for this ad. I want to push it to this region in Saudi Arabia. I want them to know we stood up this new model. You can do that today.
Yeah.
And so I think there's no excuse to not be communal, because ultimately that is the fuel of insight that allows you to be hyper reactionary in real time. And you can dog food and learn so much from your communities. And in today's day and age, I have 2 teenagers. In today's day and age, I will tell you, they never expect perfection, but they do expect acceleration. If you're a slow company, they don't want to use you. And so your services have to be fast, they have to be real, and they have to know what they care about in the moment they're speaking to you. AI will solve that.
Mark, great stuff. We were riffing the other day, low latency marketing, to use a term we always use. What that means is real time. I mean, and again, you can iterate, you can use inference, you can use these tools. It's all are out there. So again, love the community angle on that. I think it's going to change some of the pipelining and funneling and how people think about marketing, performance, as we start thinking about the core mission, which is, I got a value proposition, I'm going to move the product and service in the hands of the customer. If they like it, they pay me. I'll try to keep them and nurture them and sell more to them and market value, competing on the value. And this is the future of marketing. And again, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day, and congratulations for almost breaking through, soon to be 1 million developers at Groq. Congratulations on the 1.5 billion of new funding in the region to expand out, again, the global presence. Say hello to Jonathan and the team for us, and I really appreciate your time and insight on the news. Also contributing to our new CMO community that's open and will be always on. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for the time, and look forward to talking to you guys again.
Mark Heaps is the Vice President of Brand and the Chief Technology Evangelist at Groq. Rapidly growing company, changing the game, expanding the regional footprint, bringing the AI innovation that will shape all verticals, all industries, all personas. As the workflows and data become more relevant and more intellectual property of companies and brands, marketing executives are going to move beyond writing blog posts to actually having really great campaigns. So of course, more coverage here on theCUBE. I'm John Furrier, your host. Thanks for watching.